righty, let's go ahead and dive into today's content. How was everyone's Christmas? All right, well, I'm going to assume you had a good Christmas. I appreciate you joining me on the 26th of December to continue this series. We're diving in again today on our 12 days of systems to move you from ideas to action with farming to grow bigger crops. So as always, if you have questions as we go through today's class, feel free to throw them in the chat box. You can unmute yourself. You can raise your hand. If you interrupt me, I don't count it as rude. So you can just be like, hey, Amy, wait, I've got a question. Don't move on. Totally okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Hold on, I'm just waiting for everything to catch up. Or maybe it won't. There we go. All right. Our learning objectives today are we're going to talk about farming basics. What is a farm? How to choose a farm, etc. We'll also be covering how to take a neighborhood farm to the next level, developing systems around your farm to create consistency, how to add value to the homeowners in your farm, and ultimately how to dominate your farm. So is everyone ready to get started? Give me a thumbs up, raise your hand, throw it in the chat box. Perfect. All right. So if you're like me and you always heard, oh, I don't know what's happened. It's probably a cinnamon roll I ate for breakfast. But if you're like me and you're like, I've heard of a farm, everyone says you should do a farm, but what is a farm? I thought it was just like they called it a farm because you planted seeds and hope that something grew, but it actually is an acronym that stands for frequent area of repetitive marketing. So the important thing there is to remember that your farm should be frequent and repetitive. Okay, frequent area of repetitive marketing. Okay, that's the whole idea of a success of a farm. Okay, there's lots of different types of farms. You could do a demographic farm where you choose maybe like homeowners that might be looking to move up or move down. Maybe homeowners that have been in their home a certain amount of time or have a certain amount of equity, homeowners of a certain age, or maybe in any other demographic type attribute, right? So that would be a demographic farm. The type of farm we're going to focus on today is going to be a geographic farm. Okay, and on a geographic farm, you choose homes based on their location. It might be a specific neighborhood, or it could be a full zip code. There's no wrong answer. A lot of people choose to farm the area where they live, but again, you don't have to, right? Especially if you don't like your neighborhood, or maybe you're in a neighborhood where you don't feel comfortable spending your time. That's probably not a great place to farm. So you want to choose a neighborhood or an area that you want to do business in. Okay. I was thinking something and now I've lost my train of thought, but that's all right. What I was gonna clarify is that like for us in our area where I do most of my business, the zip codes are like the full city or a half of a city, and that's way too big. So you may want to look at just neighborhoods versus zip codes. I know some other places in the United States, like Arizona, the zip codes kind of define the neighborhood. So it makes it really easy to like pick a whole zip code. It's not 3,000 houses, it's like 1,000 max. So just something to consider there. The ideal size of a farm is about 400 homes. Okay. That being said, I often tell our new agents or agents when they are first starting with a farm to start with 100 homes. Okay. With 100, the results are going to be a little slower, but it keeps the cost and the time requirement a little bit more manageable. Okay. So, in that way you can, sorry, my computer's very glitchy today. I apologize. You can expand. If we start with 100, then we can expand over time to that 400 mark. Okay, I usually recommend that when you first start out, you take 100 homes, you execute your plan with those homes, you work out the bugs, the kinks, you figure out what's working, what's not working, what you like doing, what you don't like doing. You do that for 3 months. Okay, at the end of 3 months, when you've become consistent, remember that frequent area of repetitive market, when we become frequent and repetitive, then we earn the right to add another 100 homes. Okay, we work that second 100 homes, so now we've got 200 homes for the next quarter or those next 3 months. And we work that, we execute our plan. Once we've been consistent in our plan for those 3 months on those 200 homes, we add the third 100 in there. So now we're working 300 homes for the third quarter. Okay, work those 300 homes then for that third quarter, fourth quarter, right? We just rinse and repeat at this point. We add another 100 until we get to the full size of our farm at 400. Once you're consistent in your homes at 400, then you can continue to grow that. But they usually recommend like 400 is a manageable amount. It doesn't completely overextend your budget. It's something that you could walk and door knock on, a weekly basis. So it makes it manageable. If you want, you can grow it beyond that. We've got agents that have grown their farms. I know agents that have grown their farms to, 1,200 to 2,000 homes, right? So you can continue growing it, but you just want to do it incrementally. And you want to earn the right to add more homes. Because if we started out with 400 homes, you may go door knock one day and be like, oh my gosh, I only made it to 50 homes. Like, I can't do this. I'm overwhelmed. And then you stop and you bail out. Okay. And we don't want bailout. We want it to feel manageable and add to it rather than just feel overwhelmed and quit. Okay. For the turnover rate, most experts recommend a turnover rate of 4.8% or higher. Okay, the turnover rate is the total number of homes in your area and the total number of homes sold. So you're going to take the total number of homes sold in your area of your farm, divide it by the total number of homes. That's going to give you your turnover rate. Okay. Usually your local title company can help you determine that turnover rate. They can usually, most of the time they have like farm systems that they can plug you into. You give them the parameters of your farm, they'll plug it in and tell you what your turnover rate is. They can also provide you with a list of all the homeowners in that area. And sometimes title companies have like Title Pro or there's another name for it that I can't think of, where you can actually, for pennies on the dollar, pay for the contact information for those homeowners. Keep in mind that information that you're getting, that's for what they recorded when they recorded the property. Usually that's what's on record with the tax and title records. So it's not always the most accurate information, but it's a good place to start. As far as names on title, it is the most accurate information. It's pulling it directly from the tax records. Okay. But your title company can usually help with that. And even though you should aim for a farm with 4.8%. Oh, let me back up just a little bit. Remember I said, hey, your farm should be 400. You may want to start with 100. When you look at the turnover rate, look at the whole picture of those 400-ish homes. Okay, it might be 450, it might be 372, but right around 400 homes is your goal. Look at the turnover rate of the whole area, not just the 100 that you're going to start with. Okay, if the turnover rate is not 4.8%, okay, I wouldn't say to not choose an area just because it has a lower turnover rate. It could be a newer home area. Maybe you decide to do your neighborhood and all the homes were built 3 years ago. It just hasn't started turning over yet. So that doesn't mean that you can't reach that 4.8% turnover rate. It just means that it hasn't happened yet. Or we have some random neighborhoods that like turned over really high 2 years ago. Like maybe they were like an 8 or a 9% turnover rate a couple years ago. And so they haven't started picking back up again this year, right? So just because it's not 4.8% doesn't mean you should mark it off your list. You just may want to look at the factors and the details of what's feeding into that. And if there's a reason why that makes sense for you to farm that area to get the return that you want. Okay. The other thing that you may be looking at a super high-end neighborhood where the turnover is not as high. But if you're like, man, if I got 1 or 2 sales in that neighborhood, I'd be totally happy for the year and set, and that would help me reach my goals, then totally fine. You can do that. Again, it's your choice. It's your business. This is just kind of the information of, to take with you and make your decisions with. Anybody have questions about that? Location, size, turnover rate. Okay. Lastly, when you select your farm, you want to select a farm that someone else isn't already consistently working. Okay. So once you choose the area, you're happy with your turnover rate, you're happy with the size, go knock on some doors, introduce yourself, let them know your name, who you work with, that you're a real estate agent in the area, and let them know that you're going to keep them up to date on a regular basis of the real estate market in their neighborhood, that you're going to introduce to them local business owners and share with them what is going on in the community, and ask them if they have any other real estate agents that come by and are already doing that. Okay, ask the question, hey, do you have anybody else coming by and knocking on your door, dropping you off information of what's going on in the real estate market in this neighborhood on a regular basis? Okay. Let them know that your goal is to help create community in the neighborhood and that you look forward to earning their future business and becoming the realtor of their choice. Not just for them, but for their friends and family, right? A lot of people, you'd be like, hey, I want to earn the spot as your realtor of choice. They'd be like, I'm never moving. You'd be like, perfect. That's actually why I love this neighborhood myself, right? Like I live just a couple streets down. I love this neighborhood too. My intention is to never move. But if something changes and you do decide to move, I want to be the one that earns that business, as well as, you may have friends or family because this neighborhood is so amazing that want to move to the area or need help of a real estate professional. I want to earn your referral business as well. Okay, so feel free to introduce yourself, go over all the points. Sometimes it's good to take a letter with you on your first visit when you're going through your farm that outlines all this stuff. So the people that you don't get a chance to physically talk to, you can drop it off and leave it for them. Okay, so to recap, you want to choose an area where you want to do business that has the potential of around 400 homes, and know and be comfortable with the turnover rate. When looking at the turnover rate, look at the full farm, not just the first 100 homes you're going to start with, and give yourself permission to start with just 100. Once you've selected your farm, go and introduce yourself. Okay, so now let's talk about some strategic ideas of how to create systems and grow your farm. So, number one is you want to know your farm. You should be the neighborhood expert. Study sales for the past 12 months, maybe even go back further to the past 24 to 48 months, right? Like a couple years back. Know the homes, know the floor plans, right? If it's not in an area if it's an area that's like, suburbia where you have, the same homes over and over again, like know those floor plans. It's a little bit more difficult when they're custom homes, but are semi-custom, but you should know like the basic floor plans, and then know who's moving in and out, who's sold, who's getting ready to move, who's moving in. Go introduce yourself, right? In addition, take time to be in your farm daily. Okay, they should see your face. Run or walk in it, right? Take your kids or your dogs to the park and really just spend time in your farm area. Know the streets, know the parks, know the local businesses. Learn the habits of people in your farm. When is it busiest? When is it the quietest, right? When does everybody mow their lawns? Like figure out the habits and things going on inside your farm. The whole idea of the farm is to be consistently planting seeds in your farm to produce consistent business. So remember that consistency is key. When we think of farm, it's the frequent area of repetitive marketing. It's that consistency, that repetitiveness. Also, make sure that you are your authentic self. It's okay to be you and to build trust by connecting with your farm consistently and following through. If you say you're going to follow up, if you say you're going to get information for somebody, make sure that you do it. If you say, hey, let's have a play date at the park at this time, you've got to be there, even if no one else shows up. Find opportunities to send handwritten notes and other opportunities to connect with people, right? If you connected with somebody, maybe when you went to walk your farm, everybody that you talked with, you're going to send a thank you note or a little handwritten note to them, like, hey, thanks for taking the time to connect with me the other day when I was walking the neighborhood. Or maybe you're at the park and you run into a couple people, right? Name search and figure out where they live and send them a thank you note. Hey, thanks for letting your kids play with mine at the park the other day, right? Find information, or maybe you guys had your dogs at the park and the dogs were playing. Like find those people and send them like handwritten notes or other ways to connect with them. Find them on social media, whatever that is, so that you can make sure that you're building relationship and connecting. Okay, steps to farm success. Number one, develop a monthly newsletter. We'll dive into this more in detail here shortly. I know you probably attend a lot of trainings where like, send a newsletter, but they never give you actually like what should be in that newsletter or help you like create it. I'm going to help you create it today. If you decide a newsletter is too much, think about ways to create an abridged version, a shorter version, send it out on a postcard, whatever, but the newsletter is going to be the most effective. Wear a uniform. Okay, step number 2 is to farm success, wear a uniform. Get some shirts or jackets made that are embroidered with your name or team name or your company, because you want to be noticeable and identifiable, right? So in addition, your open house signs, your for sale signs, your uniform, it should all correspond in color and design. So your font, your colors, everything should correspond. Make sure that you keep your uniform, like if your colors for your team or your company are gold and black, like don't go get pink shirts and purple shirts and teal shirts and mix it all up, because then people will never recognize you. So make sure it's consistent. If you're like, man, I really like pink shirts, then incorporate pink into your business and just make it a pink shirt every time. Okay, we want people to notice you and we want it to be consistent. You can host regular charity drives for giving opportunities, right? People like to get involved in giving. So that gives you a great opportunity to connect with your farm and the community at the same time. So something that you may want to start with is maybe start with, as you're putting together your farm calendar, start with maybe 1 drive per quarter. And then maybe over time you expand it to every other month or once per month. It gives you a good touch point, right? And there's so many things that we can do charity drives for, from, I think I mentioned this, in fact, in one of the other lessons, but you could do, like canned food drive, right? A lot of canned food drives happen around the holidays, but come early spring, nobody's bringing canned food into the shelters and storehouses. So maybe canned food drives, maybe you do a dog food drive for a local rescue or the SPCA. Maybe you do a blanket drive for the animals. Maybe you do a coat drive for kids, right? Maybe you do a shoe drive, like backpacks when it comes to the, it's fall school starting season. So there's so many things that you can do that incorporate you serving the community and incorporating your farm. We did one time, we did, like people have old animal crates, like, cat carriers and stuff floating around their house. So we did like a dog or cat carrier drive one time. I was surprised the number of cat carriers we ended up with. It was pretty amazing, the things people have sitting around their house. So super fun way to connect. Make sure you host open houses in your neighborhood. If anyone in your office has listings in your farm, offer to host that open house every weekend. That's going to add to your presence of being in that neighborhood. People recognizing your name on the signs, people recognizing you coming by into the open house, that helps to establish you as the neighborhood real estate expert. Step 5 to success is reinvest in your business, right? So what would help you offer value? So a lot of people who do farms long-term that are having success in their farms, they end up buying like a box truck to help their clients move, right? Something their clients can borrow from them, or they can drive on moving day. They load it up, they move it, it's branded with their name, right? Super good way to brand yourself and to offer value. Maybe you invest in garage sale signs. We actually did this. We invested in 50 garage sale signs that the owners in our farm could borrow from us. They were branded with our name, said like amazing garage sale. They could put them all over. Okay. So what other equipment would be helpful? So start thinking today and plan for future reinvestment. So not everything has to happen today. You may be like, Amy, I've got to have some closings before I can do something. Totally fine. But think about what would be helpful. What would help guide you and create a presence in that neighborhood? Maybe you decide that, hey, I want specific signs for the neighborhood, right? That are my for sale signs or my open house signs that say like neighborhood expert or something on them, right? So you can brand yourself to the neighborhood, but that may not be something you want to do today. That might be like, hey, step 1, as soon as I get a closing in my farm, I'm going to reinvest, $1,000 into my farm. Okay. Number 6 is belong to your farm. In the long run, if you don't already live in your farm, buy real estate in your farm, right? Be connected with your farm area through ownership, either with your primary home or future investment properties, right? You don't actually have to move to that neighborhood, maybe pick up an investment property or two. That way you can say you own homes in the neighborhood. It'll just help you be connected. And again, that's not like, hey, go out today and move. But, you know, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, like think about how to be connected to your farm by belonging there. Okay, any questions about the steps to success? All right, moving right along. We're going to talk about how to level up your neighborhood or zip code farms. Okay, so the first thing to do is choose a community or neighborhood that you're passionate about. Okay, so again, we talked about like being strategic and how you pick your farm area. Pick someplace that you're passionate about. If you hate where you live, don't pick that neighborhood. Or even if you hate your city, like if you're like, man, I really wish I could move at some point to the city next door, but my interest rate's at 2%. I'd be silly to move, but man, that's really where I want to be doing my business is over there. Like go pick a farm over there. If you're more passionate about that city than you are yours, like go someplace else. It's totally okay to do that. Okay. And again, we already talked about like, you know, neighborhood versus zip code and what you allow. You don't really want to pick up a whole half a city unless maybe your city's, you know, 1,000 houses strong. You really want to go with something around 400 homes, and you may want the ability to expand later on, but don't bite off more than you can chew. Okay. And you may want the ability to expand, like I mentioned before, like up to 1,200 or 2,000 over time, but that's really like the next 3 to 5 years. That's not like the next 1 to 2 years. 1 to 2 years, we're going to move up to 400 homes, and then we're going to probably want to consistently work those 400 homes for another year. So for the first 2 years, you really want to keep it growing into that 400. And then that second year is going to really be about working consistently to those 400 homes to start bringing about that return. Okay, creating the newsletter. Remember, I told you I was going to give you some simple steps to create that newsletter instead of just saying, have a newsletter. So ideally, your newsletter should have 4 pages or 4 sections if you're going to do some sort of abridged version. Okay. Like you could start with postcard size, where maybe each quarter of the postcard is considered a page or a section. And then you can move into the whole thing, or you could even do like keep it a postcard type thing, which means you could mail it or easily leave it on their doorstep. And maybe for the full story, you're sending them to like a web page or a social media site or something like that. So here's what should be content wise. Here's what I recommend. Page 1 or section 1 should be the letter from the editor section. This is going to include your current market conditions, seasonal well wishes, market area matrix, homes for sale, those that are active, those that are in contract, those that have sold. And then if you have any charity drives or events or activities coming up, that's all going to be on page 1. So page 1 is all your content, highlighting who you are, what you do, and what the market is doing. Okay, that's your area of expertise. So page 1. Page 2 or section 2 should highlight a local business owner. Okay, it could be an owner that lives in your farm, even if their business isn't located in the farm, or it could be a business that's located in or nearby your farm. Okay, but we want to highlight those local business owners. You want to ask them like, hey, what do you love about what you do? If the business is located in or near the farm, why did they choose to locate their business in that area? Maybe even ask for like a coupon or a voucher that you can include in the newsletter, right? Adding value. And maybe ask if you can drop off some copies of the newsletter in their business over the next year, right? So if each month, if you can put copies of that newsletter in their business, and then you just want to talk to them about their business, right? What do they do? What are their specialties? What's their ideal customer look like? What are their hours, right? What's special about them? Why'd they decide to open that business, right? All of that information, we want to highlight that business owner. You want to make sure to add that business owner to your database. They're now part of your sphere, which is why we're asking, right? If we're like, hey, do you have a coupon or voucher? You'd be like, I market to 400 homes in the area. Like I could bring you new customers, right? I'm of value to you, and I want you to be of value to me as well, which is why I'm asking if I can leave some copies of the newsletter each month in your place of business so that people can pick them up and take with them, because I can guarantee you that people that don't live in the neighborhood go to that business, and now you can help expand your reach and grow your contacts that way. Okay. Any questions about the business owner section of the newsletter? Okay, part 3 or page 3 is going to highlight a local student in your neighborhood, right? Someone who's excelling in sports or academically, or maybe somebody who's doing great things in the community, right? So it may be that you reach out to a local school, see who you should connect with, maybe look at the sports pages to see who's excelling in sports. You really want to focus on the juniors and seniors in the local high school, as those parents are potentially becoming empty nesters and maybe looking to move in the near future. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. Anytime you're reaching out to kids, you want to reach out to the parents first to ask permission. Okay, so maybe you go knock on somebody's door, knock, knock. Hey, I saw your child is the track star. Gosh, she's winning so many races, or he's winning so many races, or I saw he just broke the record for shot put, like whatever that is. I was hoping that I could highlight them in our new neighborhood newsletter. Would you allow me to do that? Right? If you want to level up that, you could always, once you schedule that appointment with them, you could bring a photographer with you and let them know that, hey, I'm going to have a photographer with me to capture a few photos. And if you guys want, while I'm there, I'd be happy to do a couple family photos for you as well. So if you guys are prepared, we can do that, and I'll pass off those family photos to you, right? What a good benefit for people. So added value. You're going to want to make sure you add those homeowners, so those parents, into your database as COI, Circle of Influence. If you're like, Amy, I feel weird about reaching out to a student, then choose or highlight someone in the neighborhood that's doing great things in the community. Okay, so you can focus on like a homeowner that's doing great things, or on a student in the area. Okay, page 4 or section 4 should be your keeper content. This is what you can include that's going to make them not want to throw your newsletter or your postcard in the trash. What's going to want to make them hold on to it? It may be activities or other things of value. So it could be like a puzzle, like maybe crossword, or like a Sudoku puzzle. It could be the local school sports schedule, maybe even like community events that are coming up. Like in Vacaville, we have the summer there next month, so they can see what bands are coming up. So that's a good way, but you want to be keeper. It could be like a recipe, right? There's all sorts of things that would cause somebody to want to keep your newsletter. Also, by including that like voucher or whatever for the restaurant in there, by putting that in the business section, that may get them to want to keep your newsletter as well. So just think of things that if somebody handed you something, what would make me want to keep that? Okay, maybe your local theater offers like a movie series, like a kids movie series or family movie series. You could post the upcoming movies, or maybe they do like a flashback film series where they have the old movies that they play on like Wednesday night, right? So many opportunities there. So look for reasons in your community that you can put, or things that you can put on the keeper content section, so that people are going to want to hold on to that newsletter, not throw it in the trash. Okay, that last page is also a great place to put your real estate banner or team logo or whatnot. So remember to brand that newsletter to you. And again, that newsletter, the color and content and everything should match your open house signs. It should match your postcards. It should match everything else that you're putting out. Should all be consistent. Keep in mind too that the newsletter, you want to create a name for your newsletter that ties you into that community or that neighborhood. Okay, so think of something clever and nice so it ties it in, so people know that, oh my gosh, she's not just giving this to everybody in town. This is specific to our neighborhood. Okay, like we have an area called the Green Valley area, so it could be like the Green Valley Gazette, right? Like think of something fun and creative. Any questions about the newsletter? 4 pages. Letter to the editor, local business highlight, local student or property owner highlight, and then your keeper content. All right. Next up is your delivery of the newsletter. You don't just want to send it and forget it. Our goal here is to create relationships. So you can either choose to mail your newsletter, or you can choose to drop it off on their doorstep. Me personally, I like the idea of dropping it off, as it gives me more opportunities to connect with those homeowners and build relationships. The more conversations I can have with those homeowners, the more likely they are to list with me. Okay, but mail's okay too. We just want it frequent and consistent. So, but that being said, we want to add additional touches. So we also want to connect before and after the delivery to level up our newsletter. Okay, so you can work with a title company or third-party vendor to get the phone numbers for the owners or the occupants in your farm. So remember, I told you title companies usually have a thing that you can pay a couple pennies and they give you like phone numbers and stuff. Or there's other companies that you can partner with. There's LandVoice, there's Mojo. There's other companies that will just pull neighborhood-specific information. It's like a one-time fee to get as much information as they can about the owners in that area. So make sure you pull that information. Even a bonus if they can make it and scrub it against the local do not call registry or the national do not call registry. So the goal here, that is in a TCPA compliant way, you're going to call the owners of each home or use something that's going to drop a voicemail into that phone number. Okay, so there's programs out there like SlideDial where you can record one voicemail message and it's just going to skip the phone call and drop it right in their voicemail. So you can do them that as well. So 1 to 2 days before delivery, we want to get them a voicemail message. If you're making the phone calls, I'd probably do it the week before. So if I'm going to go walk a neighborhood next week, I'm going to make the phone calls this week, only because it's going to take a little longer to make phone calls by hand than it is to do like SlideDial where it drops it in everybody's voicemail boxes in like 5 minutes. Okay. The message before delivery is going to be something like this. Hi, it's Amy. It's that time again. In a couple of days, I'm going to be delivering the Green Valley Gazette. Be sure to check out, and you're going to point out one thing in the newsletter, right? Be sure to check out the article on the new business going in just around the corner from our neighborhood, or the new gym that's opening, or whatever it is, right? So point out something that's in that newsletter. So, hi, it's Amy. It's that time again. In a couple of days, I'll be delivering the name of the Green Valley Gazette. Be sure to check out blank. Right? Super simple, super short, just giving them a heads up like, hey, it's coming. Okay. Then you're going to deliver that newsletter. Again, it's either going to arrive in the mail or you're going to drop it off on their doorsteps. And then after delivery, you're going to call or send another voicemail message. Again, 1 to 2 days after. Or again, if you're making phone calls, it might be the week after the newsletter delivery. So like week 1 is the phone calls, week 2 is delivery, week 3 is the phone calls again. Week 4, you get to revamp and plan for the newsletter for the next month. So you get a week off. Okay. The message after delivery is going to be something like, hey, it's Amy again. I hope you enjoyed this month's newsletter or this month's Green Valley Gazette. Some of your neighbors called to ask about a valuation of their home. If you want a current up-to-date value on your home, please call or text me at blank, right? Leave your phone number and be sure to leave your name and address. Thanks. Right? So, hey, it's Amy again. I hope you enjoyed this month's Green Valley Gazette. Some of your neighbors called and asked for a valuation of their home. If you want a current update on your home's value, call or text me at blank and be sure to leave your name and address. Thanks, right? Super simple, just looking for them to connect with you, giving them a reason to connect. Okay, any questions about that system? Okay, the goal of the Level Up with the newsletter is that each year you're adding at least 12 business owners to your database and to your circle of influence, right? Because we've now interviewed 12 people, 1 per month, that are business owners. In addition, you've moved 12 homeowners into your circle of influence by highlighting them or their child, right? Whoever you're highlighting on that 3rd page of your newsletter. We want to make sure to mark those in our database. You've also, by the end of the year, completed 12 deliverable touches with that newsletter, right? We either dropped it in the mail or we dropped it off on their doorstep. And then we completed 24 additional connections with the phone calls before and after each delivery. Okay, ultimately, the goal is that's going to lead to listings taken. It's all about relationships and about that frequency of connection. Any questions so far about that? Does this make sense to everybody? Yes, no, maybe so? I think everyone's in like after Christmas quiet mode. You had too much family. All right. Now we're going to talk about how to add value or how to create value for your farm. So in addition to that newsletter, we want to bring value to the farm. So you want to offer them something that keeps them excited when they hear your voicemail, read your newsletter, answer the door, in addition to just being recognizable, right? So you may want to have a system in place for homeowners where you can offer smart fixes before they sell their house to maximize that sales price and ultimately maximizing the seller's equity. Okay, it might just be taking care of items that are on like pre-sale inspections, right? All those quick like handyman type jobs to maybe even doing quick facelifts, painting, right? Flooring, etc. right? Something that's going to add value, going to help a buyer choose their home over somebody else's home. And you may want to work on building a relationship with some contractors that are willing to get paid at close of escrow. Okay, so if you can build relationships with some contractors that are willing to bill like 30 to 60 days out so that they can get paid at close of escrow versus getting paid up front, that's going to help add to your value, because a lot of homeowners, they didn't do those fixes because they didn't have the money up front to do them in the first place, and they're not handy enough to do them, or they don't have the time. So if we can provide them the resource to be able to do those fixes, that's going to help your name spread like wildfire. Hey, not only did Amy help me get my home sold, but she helped me do all those fixes that I've been talking about doing, like that loose stair rail and the tread on my stairs were broken. She helped get that all fixed so that my house would sell for top dollar and I didn't have to pay for it up front, right? Adding value to help maximize their equity. Okay. In addition, you want to make sure that you have consistency in your brand. And you may want to hire someone to help you do this. Your newsletter, your postcards, your social media, your for sale signs, your open house signs, they all should be consistent in their colors and their fonts and the look so that people recognize your stuff everywhere. Okay. We want them, when they think real estate, to think you in that neighborhood. And then you also want to get belly to belly with people. There's nothing that builds relationship faster than getting in front of people to have those conversations, which is why I recommend dropping off the newsletters in person. And if you have time or make time, like knock on their doors, okay, to drop off those newsletters. It's not only cheaper than mailing to go door knock, it's going to take you a little bit of time, but that's okay. It gets you in front of owners so you can have those conversations with them. Make sure that you're doing open houses in your farm area. Again, that's going to get you belly to belly with people. And we don't just want to advertise, hey, open house. Like, go around and invite your neighbors to that open house so they can come by, they can meet you in person if they haven't done so before. They can see your product, right? If it's your listing, they can see how you present the listing. What did you do? How does the flow work? Gosh, is this home ready to sell? That way they can meet you and see how you sell properties. Okay. And don't forget that you need to focus on that client experience. So having systems and processes to really bring the wow, so that once you get a listing in your farm, they talk you up to other neighbors and their friends and family. So have systems in place with how you work your listings themselves. Okay. So that you're bringing that wow experience. We talked about that a while back. I think it was on the first lesson or the second lesson. We talked about bringing that experience to your clients, right? So we want to make sure that we're following up with our sellers on a weekly basis, if not more often than that, that we're setting the expectation of when we're going to follow up with them, that we are, if they're having work done on their property, that we're getting that work scheduled, that we're helping facilitate that so that they have kind of a simple, non-complicated home sale. Okay. So put those systems and processes in place when it comes to your listings. A little bit about our sponsor, Cyberbacker. Cyberbackers remote administrative assistants can help you with all things marketing, can not only help you create the content and the materials for your newsletter and postcards, they can also make sure that you have brand consistency on all platforms. In addition, they could act as your listing manager, right? Scheduling inspections, photos, repairs, keeping track of what's going on, sending weekly summaries to your sellers, and doing all the things that you need to help you level up your client experience. You can comment in the chat box if you'd like more information on Cyberbacker. But back to today's content. We also want to make sure that we create community in your farm so that you can dominate your farm. Okay, so our goal is 50% market share. Just waiting for that slide to turn. The reason that we usually talk about 400 homes and a 4.8% turnover rate is that means that in that neighborhood, there's going to be 20 sales every year. Okay, it's considered a good farm. A good farm if you capture 20 to 25% of the business in your farm. That's the kind of the normal expectation of a farm. So that's going to be 4 to 5 sales. Okay, if 20 homes sold, 20 to 25% is going to be 4 to 5 home sales each year out of your farm of 400 homes. So, right, hopefully those that are selling are also buying so that you can transfer that and make it 8 to 10 sales because you're getting both transactions, or a transaction and a referral, but we can't guarantee that. And I don't know about you, but 8 to 10 sales really isn't going to get me to my goal, right? I need more than that. So if we level up our game, we don't just get a few, but we could dominate to win 50% market share. Who would like 50% market share in your farm? Anybody? Thumbs up. You can do your little reaction. You can throw it in the chat box. 50% market share. That would mean 10 listings out of a 400 home market that has a 4.8% turnover rate, and potentially 20 if you're getting both transactions, whatever they're selling to whatever they're buying. And really what it comes down to is it all comes down to community. So remember that newsletter where we connected with a business owner and somebody else from the neighborhood? Maybe you want to film that interview and then have a social media page for your farm, and you can direct people there to see the full in-person interview, right? Reading something's fun, but getting to watch it is better. Okay. You want to post additional content there and drive people to your social media so that you can interact with people on a daily basis. That gives them a place they can post lost dogs. It gives them a place where they could post, things that they have for sale, because it's so much easier to buy things from other neighbors than it is to like go across town or to another city, right? So they can post their Facebook marketplace listings there. If you're doing those charity giving events, you can post them there. And you may want to make 2 groups, one a public group, or I'd probably do a page. So maybe one is a public page where you post community information and community content as a lead generation method for people moving to the area or wanting to move to that neighborhood. And then I would make a private group where just the people who live in your farm can join. Okay, so I would probably do both, a private group and a public page on social media to just further create that community. Okay. Be the go-to in those groups with information. So if somebody asks for something, remember you've got that whole vendor list we talked about last week. Be the one that somebody says, hey, who's got a great hair salon? You can be like, oh, I've got the top one, or a masseuse, or a handyman, or a window cleaner, or a house cleaner, right? Create those relationships with other business owners so that you can refer them in those groups. That's a great way to be the neighborhood expert. Okay. In addition, you want to send some snail mail. So if you have new listings, closings, send those postcards out. Okay, you could also back up your newsletter with a postcard as well. So maybe we drop the newsletter off on the doorstep, and then maybe we send like a summary postcard to them as well. So they're getting double hit with both of those items as well. Or you could just send out the month, like a market summary each month in their mailbox, and then hand the newsletter to them on their doorsteps, right? Great way to get connected and just totally reiterate that you are the neighborhood specialist. Okay. Make sure you do a walkthrough and view every listing that comes on the market that isn't yours in your farm. You need to know the market and the homes available. Right? That way, if you're walking around handing out newsletters and somebody's like, oh yeah, I saw another property that just popped on the market down the road, and I think it's the same floor plan and it popped on at this, this price, you could be like, cool. Actually, you want to let me do a quick walkthrough of your house and I can tell you how yours compares to that. Or, hey, you want to go see that property with me so you can see how yours compares? And then you can ask them questions and start having that conversation about when they're thinking about listing their home, what their plan is, right? Open that communication. But it's important you know what the inventory is and what it looks like. So make sure you walk through every listing that comes on. If there is a country club or some other club associated with your farm area, make sure that you join it and be part of it. Be there regularly, get face to face with every opportunity. Okay, some places are part of like country clubs. We have a neighborhood in the Vacaville area that there's a gym really close by that most of the people that live in that neighborhood go to that gym. So that would be a good thing to join and work out there so that you can run into those people over and over and continue to build relationship. Okay. Maybe your farm has there's some areas in like the West Sac, the Natomas area, and they'll have like pools associated with them. So maybe you make sure that you show up to that pool and like, even if you're like, man, I don't even like swimming, that's okay. Just like show up and like get a suntan or whatever it is, borrow some people's kids and bring them with you so they can go swimming so that you're just running into those people. So be part of that community. Host over every open house and not just yours, right? So if your brokerage allows for it, offer to host other agents' homes open that are in your farm area. You want to be the face of real estate in that farm. So if you can do it and you're allowed to do it, do it. And you may want to host neighborhood events. So you may consider hosting or sponsoring activities like movies in the park, an annual garage sale, food truck nights, play dates for moms with young kids, maybe at the park, family fun days, rent bounce houses or large, water slides, bring drinks, bring in other vendors, bring in DJs, like make it fun. And one of the rules of thumb was kind of do things that are going to keep the kids occupied so that the adults can mingle. Okay, you want to be able to have conversations with those adults. Okay, and neighborhood events might be something from, like we have one agent in our office that every month, and maybe weekly now, she hosts food truck nights. So she lines up the food trucks to come to the park or the neighborhood on that night. And then she just lets everybody know who is going to be out there and what the time is. It's on the same day at the same time every week, and just gives people an opportunity to connect and grow community within their neighborhood. Right? So it could be something simple like that to like a full-blown bounce house, DJ, food vendors, their party in the park. Okay. Think outside the box and be creative. So you could create maybe like a high school scholarship award for people in your farm, right? For seniors in your farm. You could support youth sports, host and or share community events with the community. Put flags in the yard for like Veterans Day or Memorial Day or maybe even 4th of July, right? We learned a little trick with that. If you get the little flags, get a pencil sharpener, because it works really well if you sharpen the end of the wooden stick before you try to stick them in people's yards. But that's a good way to do that. Some people tie their cards to those flags. Some people just do the flags, and then you could post like, on your social media page that you just finished putting flags in everybody's yards or whatnot. You could host an Easter egg hunt. You could do Santa pictures. You could do pet photos. You could do a 4th of July block party or maybe even a bike parade. You could do national night out in the neighborhood. There's so many things that you can do that just help create community. Maybe you've got like a sport court in the area. You could like host a pickleball tutorial class, right? Or something fun like that, or come learn how to play tennis, right? So if you've got some courts or basketball, you could host like pickup games. Make it fun and exciting. Okay. You're not limited to like send a newsletter and go door knock on homes. Like do some fun things. Also help the people in the neighborhood get the first chance or be the first to know about your new listings that are coming up in that neighborhood, right? Maybe even before they hit the market or the MLS, so that they can refer people to you and pick their neighbors, right? So communicate those listings to them. Again, if you fall under the National Association of Realtors clear cooperation policy, make sure you abide to that, but you can let them know 24 hours in advance of that property hitting the MLS that there's a listing coming up. If you're using that slide dial or that voicemail system, you can just send them a message right into their voicemail. Okay. And then make it fun, and remember that you can start small and you can add to it as you go. Okay, so start with 100, start with one event a year, start with one event a quarter, right? And slowly add to it so that you aren't overwhelmed and you don't quit. That's the key. So does anybody on our class today, does anybody have a farm already, or is anybody going to start a farm? Throw it in your chat box, raise your hand, unmute yourself. Anybody have a farm? Not yet. Connie, do you think that a farm sounds like a good idea or something that you may want to incorporate into your business?
Yeah, it's something I've been nervous about. So just trying to get a lot of information to feel more comfortable finding a way to do that.
Cool, very good. Let's see. Deanna already emailed title for the neighborhood farm nearby where she lives. Fabulous, right? It's just a fun way to get connected, especially like that, like the neighborhood where you live. It's a good way just to connect with neighbors too. And those seem to be the most painful when like the for sale sign hops up a couple doors down from your house and you're like, man, that's my neighbor. And they didn't even know I was in real estate, right? Great way to let people know. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate you taking time out of your day on the 26th of December. Tomorrow, we're going to be covering social media to expand your reach. So we'll talk about some tips and tricks that you can implement into social media. Thursday's class is getting rescheduled. I apologize. My first grandbaby is scheduled to make an appearance on Thursday. We were hoping that she would come sooner, like over this past weekend. But she's scheduled for induction on Thursday. So Thursday I will be out. So that class will get rescheduled. I'll be back on Friday to show you how to take your open houses from open to out of this world. And as always, you can watch the recordings as well as access my previous library of recordings on my YouTube channel. It is there on the screen. It's RE according to Amy 221. If you search that on YouTube, you will find it. These recordings won't get posted probably until next week. I give all of my admins a full week off between Christmas and New Year's so they can spend time with their families. So Abby is not on our call today. She's not doing the recording. So I was responsible for hitting the recording button. So when she's back next week, she'll get them all edited up and get them posted. So we will see you tomorrow for social media. Thank you, Jennifer. You as well. Thank you, Diona.